Coyle, Efron Lewis, correct?
That's correct.
I got it right. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, so we here rocking, and thank you for coming.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Indeed. So I see your signs out. I see you online because I follow you online before you announced you were running, right? So this is a little different. Tell me, what made you jump in the race?
Yeah, so we are in such a moment in time right now where women's rights, issues affecting families, black families, are on the ballot. And I looked around and saw all of the wonderful folks on the ballot running for the race, and they weren't speaking to issues that impact my life or the majority of the district that we're in. So as a mother, an attorney, a former fourth grade teacher who spent my entire career advocating for women and children, I want to make sure that when folks are making decisions in the Gold Dome, that they're keeping our interests top of mind and that our needs are not being negotiated away for political expediency or anything of that sort. And so decided to jump in this race. Think I have something to offer, an experience, a lived experience that shows how sometimes laws may be great on paper, but are not things that we can actually feel, that actually don't make us safer, don't make us have the opportunities that we truly want to have. And so it's my goal to fight like a mother to make sure that Georgia is a safe and inclusive place to live, work, and raise families.
Beautiful. Well, I'm glad you joined us and jumped in the race. And I do want to ask you, because I'm so confused about it. I'm trying to, what is going on with this voucher bill, this program? What is that? Why should black families know about it? And so could you explain it to us a little bit, and what's your stance on it?
Yes, so this past legislative cycle, they passed the bill, Senate Bill 233, which is the Promise Scholarship Account. It is a school voucher bill. I believe the governor signed that.
Like yesterday, right?
Like yesterday.
Right.
It is a law. Under that law, it would effectively provide families with $6,500 that they could use to go to a private school in the state. And so I think, like a lot of things that happen in education, it's a great idea. It gives people the illusion of choice and opportunity for their children. But practically, when we think about how this is going to be implemented, most private schools in Georgia cost well more, much higher than $6,500.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we're talking, we've looked at some of these schools, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. And so for the families who are most likely to be stuck in schools where the educational outcomes are not great, they don't have the financial capacity to cover the rest of that amount. And so that $6,500 is an amount that might help families that are already in private school, who already have access to that, who have the ability to transport their children to those institutions, who are already enrolled. And I spent most of my career as an education attorney, and so one of the things that I will tell you is that in private school, your rights simply are just not the same as what they are in public schools. And I think about that specifically for black families who have historically faced discrimination in schools. We are more likely to be suspended or expelled. We are more likely to have poor educational outcomes. And so when private schools get to choose who they want to bring in, they are making decisions about what sort of impacts or affects their funding, what that looks like for the type of community that they create. Where does that funding come from? Private funds. So private schools get their money from...
No, as far as the $6,500.
Yeah, so they'll be taking that out of the public schools. So we fund our schools. We have a QBE, a Quality Basic Education formula that is used to fund the schools. And so that $6,500, which I think they're saying is maybe around $140 million in this first year, would be coming from the very funds that we are paying to our public schools. So it has the dual impact of defunding public education, where 90% of Georgians actually attend.
Right.
And it's a small sliver, I think, that would be able to benefit from that. So
That's
it's
crazy.
not something that I'm super thrilled about or would have voted in support of.
Can
I jump in really quick?
Yeah, go ahead. So this is our correspondent online right here, Brett. He's entertaining the guys, and he filled with questions. Go ahead, B.
Can you talk to us a little more about the difference between a private school and a charter school, where it may not be a tuition, but just distinguish the two, and talk just a little bit about how the charter schools, because that's who would be receiving a lot of these funds. Talk a little bit how the charter schools work.
Yeah, so
Good question, B.
that is a great question, and I'm happy to sort of dispel some of the myth or mystery behind them. We have in Georgia a charter school act that provides for public charter schools, and so public charter schools are also public schools. But unlike traditional schools, they can be designed for specific purposes to hit certain geographic demographics. Mm-hmm. And you have to enter into a lottery to be able to go to those schools. They are still public schools. They are a charter because they enter into a charter or a contract with either the local school district, if they are approved through a local school district, or through the state, in which case they have to often what's called is beat the odds. So they have to produce results that are better than what their attendance zone or the demographic of students that would have otherwise been in a traditional school do. So they are technically still public schools. There is still the issue that funding follows the student. So if a student goes to a charter school, then the local school wouldn't get the same funding for that student. And so it creates competition in ways that I think some people think is helpful or intended for it to be helpful. You know, the truth is that charter schools were initially created to be a place where educators could go and innovate and bring that knowledge back to the traditional schools to improve those schools. So you sort of have an opportunity to test, make sure something works, bring it back. What has happened is it has sort of taken on its own life. So, but charter schools are technically also still public schools. They are bound by the same federal laws. Yeah. They do get to waive some of the state laws, which begs the question of whether those state laws make sense, if we can waive out of them. But unlike private schools, which are private institutions, they are not bound by the same laws or responsibilities. Unless maybe they're taking federal funds, they get federal dollars, in which case they would be required to follow federal law related to some of our discrimination laws, our special education laws, etc. But outside of that, then they are completely private entities. And so they can make their own decisions about how much they charge, who they include, whether you can stay in the school or not, what they teach, etc.
Yeah. Thank you for that question, B. Hope she hit everything for you.
Yes, she did. Awesome.
Indeed. And something interesting that you're the only woman in this race. I was looking at one of your, it was one of these forums somewhere. It was online, and I was looking at you, and I was like, I guess I thought more women was in the race, and I seen you were the only woman. Not only did you kill it, you did a great job. How does it feel? What's this feeling right now?
You know,
it's a crowded space, a lot of educators.
It is. It's a crowded space. It is a very male-dominated space. And I'll say, I think, I've been preparing for this unbeknownst to myself my entire life, because I've always been the only or one of a very few. I grew up in Ogden, Utah. If you've ever been, I see everybody's head popped up real fast. Folks are like, wait a minute, what?
Ain't that where NBA young boy was just at with all that? Utah up there?
He's somewhere up there. Listen, my family's originally from Nigeria, so we say, if there is life, there are Nigerians there. And so we were in, I grew up in Ogden, Utah. I actually went to Catholic school and wasn't Catholic, lived in a Mormon state, wasn't Mormon, so I've always been someone who sort of stood out and laughing, right? And so, but also in a pretty male-dominated field as a lawyer. But I will tell you that even looking at the images, being on a screen and seeing literally that I was the only female in 2024 is pretty shocking. But it's also representative of where we are right now. I think across the country, only 31% maybe of state legislators are women. In Georgia, right now with our Senate, only 16 of the 56 senators are women, with 3 of them retiring. And so when, it begs the question of whether that's real, true representation. We say the future is female. We know that a large part of our population is female, but we don't have seats at tables where decisions are being made and decisions that are being made about us and our livelihood and our ability to contribute to society.
Indeed, I get you. And how will, first day in office, what bill are you either pushing or what are you going against when you get in office? What's your agenda once you're there? And how do you work across the aisle as far as something that's dominated by Republicans? How do you maneuver that? What does that look like?
Yeah. Great questions. And so, first and foremost, I am an educator at heart. I moved to Georgia specifically to teach. That is why I came to this state. They told me that there was this huge opportunity gap where kids who look like me don't have access to really go to and through college or career. And that was something that at a young age just didn't sit well with me. And so one of the first things that I am absolutely advocating for in the Gold Dome is for us to fully fund our public education system. Education is the foundation of any fully functioning society.
Yeah.
And we have to
you a real supporter right there.
Yeah, I love it.
I can see the hearts through it. I can just see the hearts getting hit right there.
Yes.
We have to fund it. And I tell my husband, because right now I have a 5-year-old and almost 3-year-old, and we are paying quite a lot for daycare, childcare for them, since they're not yet at the age to go to public school. And I tell him all the time, because he'll be ready like, man, this bill,
Yeah, exactly.
more than the mortgage.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we could, do other things. But I say we pay for it on the front end or the back end. And so we need to decide. And as an attorney who often advocates, has worked with small business owners, for-profits, nonprofits, families, what I say is prevention. I think there's a quote that's like, prevention is worth a pound of cure. Like, it's cheaper to invest on the front end and we get better outcomes instead of paying to incarcerate individuals, paying to take care of folks who are undereducated and therefore underemployed. It just makes more sense. And so that's one of the first things that I'm absolutely fighting for.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I am 10 toes down on is making sure that we don't have any more restrictions on women and women's bodies. There are no laws that mandate fatherhood. What do I mean by that? We have no laws that are saying that if you decide to engage in any type of activity that you will have to be a father. And so we have so many women today who are taking on and managing the responsibility that was set for two on their own, and that impacts not only our mental health, our wellness, our ability to thrive, but it also impacts our ability to engage in the workforce in the way that we need to take care of our families, take care of our communities. And so I want to make sure that women have the right to choose if and when they expand their families, and have the ability to make decisions about how they live thriving lives as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. Clap it up, y'all. That was. Cause that's when somebody come prepared and they are on point and they got it. Now, it's something that you advocate for. I notice online is like economic inclusion and things like that, right? So a lot of people may mention it, but tell me, what does that look like for you involving Black families, in particular, economic inclusion? I know you represent more than Black families, but for Black families.
Yes, well, there are all these studies and data out there that we just don't have the same net worth. Like, we are putting in the work, but we are not getting paid the same amount. We don't have the same amount of liquidity. We don't have money, the cash flow to do the things that we want to do. We're not retiring with the types of resources. And Black people, since we were brought to this country, have been investing and building here. And so we need to have an economy. Right? We have, I read somewhere on the quote, that Black people were always on that profit and loss statement. Like, we've always been profitable for this country. And so it is my goal to make sure that we get to be included in this future economy. Georgia is one of the best places to do business. There have been a lot of laws and incentives to bring business and industry into this state, and it needs to be of benefit to the people who live here also. We need to be prepared for the future jobs, have the skills, have access to the resources. I ran a small business for a period of time. We need to be able to get access to the funding and the contracts, etc.
Indeed.
And so it is my goal to make sure that we are creating laws and incentives that ensure that every single family, and especially our Black families, are able to thrive.
Yeah, indeed. I agree with that 100%. Thank you for answering that so effectively. Like, you're just like so on point. I'm like, Ashley, good job, Ashley. Clap it up for Ashley, the campaign manager over there. Ashley got her on point, hanging up on her husband and all this stuff. Like, come on, hey hubby, I got it. We gonna work this out. We gonna okay. So quick, we're gonna move it forward. Right, we're gonna talk some culture and things like that. How do you feel about Afrobeats?
You know, I love
I
music.
know that's going to be right. Exactly. Who you like in
love
Afrobeats?
me
Tim's.
Yep, Tim's.
Ain't that the American thing to say Tim's? I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's thousands of artists, but yeah.
Burna Boy, like all of them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to choose. It's incredible to see that rise of the
Yeah.
music and it, you know, really translating and crossing over.
Yeah.
I remember growing up and that being a thing that we kind of, you know, felt weird about because
Yeah.
nobody else was really listening to
Yeah.
it. I actually remember being in Nigeria and hearing some of these singers like just being like, oh, we're gonna go to this concert, and it was like in a like
Yeah.
grass area. They're just like here, and now ain't no way
Yeah.
you'd be able to be that close and
Yeah.
decide day of to go see some
Yeah.
of these artists.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad to see Africa on the map, the culture on there, the infusion that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How important is it for Black or African descendants here in America to go back to Africa?
I think it's important.
Yeah.
I think if you can make the trip, you should go. There has been a pervasive narrative in this country of what Africa is, what's available there, who we are. And I think when you touch down on that soil
Yeah.
and feel that connection, you'll know that like a lot of the things that, I'm gonna get emotional about this, that we endure here
Tissue.
are not native to us. And I think it's a transformative,
Yeah.
freeing experience.
Indeed. So we're gonna keep moving forward. Then you watch Martin.
Martin.
Yeah. What's your favorite Martin episode?
Oh my gosh, you trying to take me back? I couldn't even tell you.
Ali, what's your favorite one when he playing the piano and he get hit in the head with the cup? What's yours? She loved that episode. Oh my.
No, the one where he's beating up that animal on that trip.
Oh, the rat. The rat. Come on, y'all ain't no Martin heads in here. Y'all too. Come on, y'all know you a Martin
When he
head.
had the fake Rottweiler walk.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's the
With
one.
the CD player.
Oh,
With the CD player.
Okay. And so I'm gonna throw a few more questions at you really quickly. What do you think the state of politics looks like if Biden wins? What do you think? Hopeful, optimistic? What do you,
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. I think it at least will show that we turned away from the darkest, sort of most divisive aspects of ourselves. But I'm also still left waiting and wanting and hoping that our administrations make sure that we're included also in the national conversation of what being an American is and what those opportunities are.
Yeah, indeed, beautiful. And what does it look like if Trump wins? 2 deep breaths or one?
Boy,
Ash,
I might only be able to breathe. I might only be able to breathe. You know, I'm not as optimistic under that state, you know, and I think there's a lot of inflammatory conversation about that being the end of democracy, et cetera, and whether that's the case, you know, I'm not sure, but it definitely will dramatically shift what opportunity looks like, what freedom looks like, what it means to be in a diverse melting pot, right? We always talk about the United States as this melting pot, this beacon of hope, and I think that it will ultimately change what the that trajectory.
Yeah. Okay. 2 more questions, and then you're going to go to that camera and let them know why they should vote for you.
Fantastic.
All right. Black people are conflicted right now, right? We see 30,000 deaths in the Middle East. It concerns people. We see inflation. It concerns people. We have been traditionally taught to vote Democrat. We try to stick with the party that we know most times, right? Things of this nature. What do you say to the first-time voter who wants to get involved because he feels, hey, this is wrong over here, but I want to route my country and be patriotic also? How do you navigate that space, first-time voter? What advice would you have for them, encouraging?
Yeah. I mean, we live in a very complex, complicated environment right now. And I think the one thing that I would absolutely say and encourage is that your voice is your vote. I know that a lot of people feel like voting doesn't matter. The game is rigged. Like, you don't have options, right? We're in this two-party system. And so, if you don't love either option, like, what's the point, right? But voting truly is the way that change happens here. And if we aren't willing to show up at the ballot box, we don't get included when they're making ballot measures, etc. And I think that what's important is that we always have to vote our values. And it is hard right now. It is really hard. But I also think it's really dangerous to be a single issue voter because our lives are complex. And so there are so many things that impact how we live. And sitting out is, I think, one of the most dangerous things to do. The biggest voting population is actually the people who stay home and don't engage in this process. But nothing changes if we don't show up and do something about it.
Yeah.
So my advice would be to vote your values, but make sure that you show up to the ballot box and that you vote. And you vote from the top of the ballot on down, and that you show up in your local elections and vote, because those are the elections and those are the leaders who most directly impact your life.
Thank you. So last question, you're going to go right to that camera. If you could change anything in the world, anything, what would you change?
This is a great question. It's a really good question.
Got it.
Right, stop there. Yeah, if I could change anything in the world, I would change the way Black and brown and underrepresented, underestimated people have been socialized to think and believe about themselves. Like, we are infinite possibility. We have always been innovative and creative and resilient in ways that have been underappreciated. And I think sometimes the way that the structures, particularly in this country, but also globally, have led us to believe that we are not equally as valuable or as capable. And every day, we have to fight against that. It's hard. And I think that, unfortunately, we have lost so many talented people because of a structure that wasn't designed for us. And so I guess it would be changing that belief, but also changing the structure that prevents us from living our fullest lives.
Oh, beautiful. Clap that up, y'all. Clap that up. Wait a minute.
Oh, you got me on that. You got me.
To go to that camera and let them know why they voting for you come Monday.
Awesome. Yes. So early voting is starting on Monday. I'm in Coyo Effiong Lewis. I'm running for Senate District 38, which runs from Palmetto to Sandy Springs. And I am the only woman in this race in a moment in time where we need more women at the table. Research shows that when we put resources into the hands of a woman, it improves communities. When we have more women at boardrooms, they are more productive, more efficient, and more profitable. So we need more women right now, not less, at the table, advocating for the things that make sure all of us thrive. It's my belief that when families thrive, communities thrive, and Georgia thrives. And so I'm fighting like a mother to make sure that Georgia is a safe and inclusive place for all of us to live, work, and raise families. And if you agree with that, you believe that the future of Georgia needs to be much better because we deserve it, then I encourage you to go to my website, nkoyoforga.com. That's nkoyoforga.com, and join this movement. We can thrive, and I know that together we can build a Georgia that works for all of us. Thank you.
Perfect. There you go. You heard it. So y'all know what it is. We going to send y'all home. Goodbye.